Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the bloodbender and possessed by Sia, part 1. Huge shout out to Windstorm16 for this story. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. Korra couldn't believe her eyes at what she and Mako had just seen happen. It shouldn't be possible. The ability to take away a person's bending was something only the Avatar was capable of, and only Aang has shown the ability to energy bend in who knows how long. Something that not even Korra has learned to do yet. But they just saw it happen. Amon succeeded in doing the impossible. He took away lightning bolt Zolt's bending permanently. If they hadn't seen Zolt's lightning dissipating into fire before the fire vanished entirely, they wouldn't have believed it. But Zolt's attempts to bend fire afterwards all ended in failure. He was a non-bender now. That shouldn't be possible, Korra muttered, worried and even fearful at what she had just seen. But it is, and Amon's about to do the same to Bolin, said Mako, also worried and fearful like Korra, though not just for himself, but also for his brother, who is currently bound on the stage with the rest of the Triple Threat Triads, all of whom were about to lose their bending as well. Though just before the second bender, one that Mako recognized as Shady Shin, could be pushed forward to lose his bending next. Something strange and surprising for everyone had happened next. Someone wearing a long black cloak walked up onto the stage, getting everyone's attention. You'll have to forgive me, but members of the audience are not permitted on stage. If you wish to ask something, you may wait until after I have cleansed these benders, said Amon. And what if I'm just giving you one more bender to cleanse? Said the stranger, their voice revealing they were a guy. What? Thought Korra, and she was sure everyone else was thinking the same thing. This guy was a bender, and he was willingly exposing himself after what they all just saw, even more so that he's offering to have his bending taken away. If it wasn't for Mako, Korra would have rushed into stage to try and talk some sense into this guy, not knowing why he'd willingly allow his bending to be taken. Wait! You can't just charge up there and try fighting them all. You'll only be captured, Mako hissed, with Korra giving him an annoyed look. Well, if you have a plan, I'm all ears, retorted Korra lowly, not wanting to see anyone else have their bending ripped away by Amon, as some twisted form of equality. Let's see what happens, said Mako, unable to deny the curiosity he felt as to why this person actually wants Amon to take his bending away. Meanwhile on the stage, the chi blockers moved to subdue the bender, only to be stopped by Amon raising his hand. This is a surprise. You want me to take away your bending? Questioned Amon, not actually expecting any bender to willingly offer to have their bending taken away. The person nodded shakily, everyone now noticing their entire body is shaking uncontrollably. Yes, I want it gone. I can't control it. Anytime I even try to use it or learn to control it, people get hurt when I try. I didn't want to, but it just happened. Even when I tried isolating myself away from people, they would still get hurt. So, I want it gone forever, so I don't hurt anyone again, said the stranger, looking at their shaking hands, with Amon narrowing his eyes at this, wondering how a person's bending could be that uncontrollable, or even what kind of bender he is. Though he also couldn't pass up the chance to further improve his image amongst his followers. Then you have made a correct choice in approaching me, said Amon, walking up and placing a hand on the stranger's shoulder, before addressing the crowd. Behold, proof that even benders, like this boy, know the truth of bending and seek to have themselves cleansed of its evil. These benders who willingly approach and desire to have their bending removed, they will be welcomed as equals. This is the next step in creating a world where everyone is equal, Amon declared, as the crowd cheered for the equalist leader, seeing he was even willing to offer benders a chance to become equal to them, as Amon looked at the stranger who was shaking even harder now. This guy's insane, Mako said, repeating what he said earlier, after Amon claimed he could take away a person's bending. What do you think is wrong with him? Said Korra, seeing that whoever this stranger was, the way he was shaking wasn't normal, the avatar thinking it was almost like his body was fighting against him. Kneel, and when you rise, you will be amongst your new brothers and sisters, Amon said, motioning the stranger to kneel, so he could remove his bending. The stranger nodding, before turning around in a slow, jerky manner, before trying to drop to their knees, only to look as if they were stuck, or their body refused to obey their commands. Everyone watching the scene in confusion, not sure what was going on, with some in the crowd starting to mutter amongst themselves. Korra narrowed her eyes in confusion, wondering what was happening, only for her eyes to widen in shock, when she caught sight of the stranger's hands and the way they were moving, their fingers being bent and rigid, as if they were controlling a marionette. The avatar remembering a lesson Katara had taught her about waterbenders, who made such movements with their hands. Mako, that guy's a waterbender, said Korra, making the firebender look at her in confusion. How can you tell he's a waterbender? Mako asked, only to stiffen, when he heard several sickening pops echo around the room, looking back at the stage to see the stranger's legs unwillingly bending until they were on their knees. Because he somehow just blood-bent himself, said Korra gravely, while wondering how this person could perform bloodbending without a full moon. Everyone who knew about bloodbending was also shocked at what they were seeing right now, even more so that they were actually bloodbending themselves. None being more shocked than Amon himself at seeing another bloodbender who didn't require the full moon. Though everyone was pulled from their shock when the stranger gasped as if in pain before their hands fell onto the stage, their entire body shaking uncontrollable. No, it's coming, the stranger said, gritting their teeth. What is? Demanded Amon, looking around for whatever was coming, wondering if this was a trick. You all need to run, said the stranger as they let out a loud ear-piercing scream at the end, making several people jump in shock. With everyone then being horrified when they saw blood being forced out of the person's body through their pores, no one being able to move or speak at the terrifying sight, as more and more blood spilled out onto the stage. Yet somehow, the stranger was still alive and conscious. All the while, they still screamed in pain at what was happening. Oh spirits, Korra muttered, covering her mouth in shock at what she was seeing, while feeling something deep inside her practically screaming danger and that she should get away. Then, to the crowd's and equalist's further shock, the blood began rising off the stage and spreading over the person's body, covering them in a skin red and black suit. The sight only becoming more terrifying when the stranger's screams of pain began turning into maniacal laughter. No one could move, as they were forced to watch the horrifying sight. Even Amon found himself rooted in place, unable to react or move a muscle. It wasn't long until the person's body was completely covered in the blood-made suit, with a mask having a mouth filled with sharp, jagged teeth, while two large white flame-like eyes formed over their own normal ones. Just as the transformation ended, the person, or creature, went completely still and silent, which only unnerved everyone even more than the crazed laughter. Though soon a psychotic grin stretched across the creature's face before it suddenly spoke. Oh Naruto, did you really think that I would just let you get rid of your bending that easily? That you could get rid of me that easily? Said the creature, everyone remaining frozen in shock, along with confusion at who the creature was talking to. Is he talking to himself? Korra thought, realizing the creature wasn't talking to anyone, only to himself, or maybe it was talking to whoever that person it's now covering was. You truly are foolish if you thought you could escape me like that. Even if I let you lose your bending, I'd just jump into another host. And how unfortunate for you, you unknowingly hand-delivered one straight to me, said the creature, standing up and faced Amon with a crazed grin on his face, while the equalist leader finally came out of his shock. Who are you? demanded Amon, the creature laughing wickedly as it held up a clawed hand. You claim the spirits have spoken with you, that they gave you your power, yet you don't recognize when a spirit is standing before you. I am the spirit of blood. But now my host and I have a new name. We are Carnage. Carnage roared as tendrils shot out of his back, whipping around wildly, as everyone stepped back in fear as the sight, and that a spirit was standing before them, one admitting to using that bender as a host, though also felt hope that Amon would defeat the evil spirit. Only for the crowd and equalists to be shocked and horrified at what Carnage said next. And the fact these fools actually believe your lies just shows how pathetic these sacks of blood really are. You've never even met a spirit, let alone heard one speaking. That power to take away a person's bending is bending. You're a waterbender, a bloodbender to be more precise. Carnage revealed, as everyone gasped in shock and horror that their leader was a bender himself. Amon's a bender? Mako said, shocked by this revelation. But how can he take a person's bending with blood bending? Wondered Korra, having never heard of an ability like that before, with blood bending. Lies. Do not believe this insane and evil spirit. One only needs to look at this being, and know it is no friend of humanity, merely a monster seeking destruction, said Amon, trying to save face in the revelation of his bloodbending being exposed, only for Carnage to laugh mockingly at his words. Are you really so desperate that you have to keep making up more lies? Even more pathetic, you think you can lie to me about bloodbending? I'm the spirit of blood. I create, I control, and I consume blood, and I recognize a child of blood when I see one. And just like my host, you don't need a full moon to bloodbend. But if you insist on lying, go ahead. I have better things to do, Carnage said, being letting out a shriek as he suddenly lunged at the still-bound Triple Threat Triad members. Before, to everyone's horror, the creature's hands morphed into blades that stabbed through the Earthbender and Firebender's chests, while Carnage opened his mouth, before biting down right onto Shady Shin's throat. Everyone screamed in horror and shock at the sight, even more so when the Triple Threat Triad members' bodies began shriveling up as the creature drained them of their blood. A few chi blockers were able to snap out of their shock and horror, before charging the spirit to try and incapacitate it, only for the tendrils on his back to impale them, and began draining their blood as well. Once the creature had fully drained the bodies, it tossed them aside before roaring at the terrified crowd before its hands morphed into axes next. Ah ha 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 ha. Oh, it's been so long since we had so many humans to slaughter. Try to make this fun. Ah ha 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 ha. Laughed Carnage, before leaping into the crowd and bringing its axe hands down on two unfortunate people, cutting them straight down the middle, before proceeding to begin slicing and cutting apart anyone near him. This sending the crowd into a frenzy as everyone tried escaping the growing massacre, while Korra and Mako backed away, looking at the sight with wide eyes. We need to grab Bolin and then get out of here, said Mako, knowing they didn't have the time for subtlety, and simply needed to get far away from whatever this thing was. Nodding in agreement, Korra looked around, before grimacing when she saw Carnage slam an unfortunate person's head into a machine repeatedly until it was nothing but paste, while seeing that it had also broken some pipes, releasing a large amount of steam. Taking the chance, Korra bent the steam to cover the entire area, providing them some cover from the creature's sight. "Let's go!" said Korra as they discarded their disguises, while returning Mako's scarf to him, before the two ran towards the stage to grab Bolin. Meanwhile, Carnage paused at his massacre, holding his latest victim by their throat, while looking around through the sudden steam, before noticing Amon and his remaining guards trying to escape. "Did I say you could leave?" Carnage roared, tearing off his victim's head, before jumping towards Amon, his tendrils shooting out and impaling his guards, with the lieutenant trying to strike him with his Kali sticks, only for Carnage to dodge the strike before stabbing his hand straight into the man's chest and ripping his heart out, which Carnage then proceeded to devour, much to everyone's growing horror. The spirit then looked at Amon with mad, bloody smile, before laughing wickedly. Some leader you are, rather than stay to protect what followers I didn't slaughter, you choose to run to save your own skin. I'd call you a coward, but that's actually the smart thing to do right now. Too bad for you. I don't like weaklings having access to my powers," said Carnage, before rushing towards Amon, with the equalist leader being forced to backpedal away from the slashes from the spirit's claws. Amon tried using his chi blocking to incapacitate Carnage, only for him to laugh off his strikes and backhand him, knocking the man across the room. "If you really aren't a bender, then how will you survive this?" Carnage said, rotating his arms as the surrounding steam was condensed into water, which Carnage then froze into razor-sharp icicles before launching all of them straight at Amon. Amon's eyes widened behind his mask at the danger he was in, knowing he wouldn't be able to dodge all of the icicles. And if even one hit him, he was as good as dead. Mentally cursing, knowing he didn't have a choice, Amon raised his hand, stopping the icicles in their tracks, much to the remaining equalists and non-benders' shock and despair at seeing undeniable proof that their leader is a bender. And there it is. So much for that chosen by the spirits bullshit, Carnage taunted, as Amon scowled behind his mask at seeing his entire plan falling apart before his eyes. "You'll pay for your interference," Amon shouted, before launching the icicles right back at Carnage, only for the spirit to wave his arm, sending the icicles shooting off to the sides, impaling anyone unfortunate enough to be in their paths. Roaring, Carnage then leapt at Amon, who was beginning to feel fear creeping up within him at realizing he could really die. Fueled by desperation, Amon tried bloodbending Carnage, hoping he'd be able to at least incapacitate him for a while, long enough for him to escape and try to salvage his plans. Carnage felt Amon's attempt to bloodbend him, and couldn't help but laugh that the fool really thought that would work. Deciding that death would be too merciful right now, Carnage instead grabbed Amon and threw him into the center of the room. Then, to everyone's further shock, Carnage stomped on the ground as Amon's wrists and ankles were restrained in earth cuff, before he was forced up onto his knees, with his arms restrained behind him. But you're the Avatar," Bolin shouted, looking between Korra and Mako, unable to comprehend what they just saw, that Carnage could earthbend and waterbend. How's that possible?" said Mako, looking at the restrained Amon with wide eyes. I don't know," Korra muttered, not sure how it's possible for Carnage or his host to be an earthbender and waterbender at the same time. Carnage then sped up to Amon and grabbed his head, knocking his mask off his face, revealing his scar, only for Carnage to rake his claws across Amon's face, making him cry out, and revealing the scar was only makeup. "Even the scar is fake? Is there even anything real about you, or are you really just one giant lie?" said Carnage, laughing at how pathetic Amon was with all his lies, while the still living followers were only further demoralized at seeing yet another lie from their leader. "Well, go on, do it," Amon shouted, seeing he was beaten and going to die, but refused to let Carnage be satisfied at seeing how afraid he really was, only to feel a shiver go down his spine when Carnage laughed and turned him around and forced his head backwards, the spirit looking down at him with a malevolent grin. "Oh, I'm not going to kill you, not yet anyway. No, I want to enjoy your suffering as long as I can, and what better way than to watch your plans be swallowed by an ocean of blood? And look at it this way, since you've preached so much about equality, then let's put you on the same level as the sheep following you," said Carnage, before to Amon's complete horror, he put his thumb on the equalist leader's forehead, with Amon feeling his connection to his bending being severed, feeling the same thing that he had done to so many benders before him. Once that was done, Carnage released Amon and tossed him aside, before looking at the remaining people and raised his hand. "Now where were we?" Carnage said, as his claws extended, before he resumed his massacre, with everyone once again trying to escape the murderous spirit. All while Korra, Mako, and Bolin were shocked at what they saw, not only at Carnage bending multiple elements, but him taking away Amon's bending as well. Though the three were able to snap out of their shock when Carnage began killing people again and quickly ran for the exit. The fire ferrets quickly ran outside and jumped down off the balcony, with Korra whistling and calling Naga to them. "Naga, let's go," Korra said, as the three jumped onto the polar bear dog, which took off running away from the rally. "Oh, thank goodness you guys showed up. First Amon almost taking my bending, then whatever that freaky red thing was. What even was that? How could it bend water and earth? Was it really a spirit?" asked Bolin, shivering at remembering how close that thing had been to him when it killed the Triple Threat Triad members. "Whatever it is, let's just try to put as much distance between it and us as we can. We also need to tell somebody about what we just saw, and of that thing being on the loose," Mako said, knowing that the city needed to know about Amon's now former ability to take away a person's bending, and whatever that thing is, running around killing people. Korra nodded in agreement, knowing she had to tell Tenzin the moment she got back to Air Temple Island. Though she also couldn't help but wonder what Carnage really was and about the person in the suit. How he was practically begging Amon to take away his bending, before he turned into a killing machine, draining bodies of their blood. Even removing Amon's bending as well, after exposing him, as if the entire thing was just a show it was putting on. Could that be all it was? A show to put on for everyone to see, and know he's out there. But then who is that person from before? Carnage called him his host. Is he being controlled? Korra wondered, feeling like there was more to it than what they saw. Unfortunately, Korra was pulled from her thoughts as the three stiffened, when they heard a familiar shriek behind them. Guys?" Bolin said nervously, as he slowly turned his head, only to scream in fear at seeing Carnage running after them on all fours. "Korra, can't she go any faster?" shouted Mako, shocked that the creature was able to keep up with a polar bear dog, and it seemed to be gaining on them. "Naga, get Mako and Bolin out of here," Korra said, making the brothers look at her with wide eyes. "Us? What about you?" Mako demanded. "I'm going to stall him for as long as I can," answered Korra, much to their shock and disbelief. "Are you kidding? After we saw it'll tear you apart," said Bolin, not wanting Korra to risk her life fighting that thing. "It can try," Korra stated, then before either of them could argue against her plan, Korra leapt off Naga's back right towards the creature. Just as Carnage was about to swipe at her, Korra launched a fire blast right at his face, sending flying backwards crashing into a wall. The spirit looking at Korra with a mad grin, before flipping onto the wall and sticking to it like a spider. He, it's been so long since someone actually hit me. It'll make killing you all the more fun, Avatar," said Carnage, before jumping at Korra with his claws turning into blades. Korra stomped on the ground, raising an earth wall, blocking the creature, only to be surprised when he managed to slice clean through the stone. The Avatar only having a moment to jump back, to avoid being cut into pieces by the spirit's claws. Only to gasp in surprise, as his arm morphed into a tendril that shot forward and wrapped around her body, before proceeding to spin her around, slamming the girl into several objects. Round and round they go, which way they stop, no one knows. Ah ha 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 ha. Carnage laughed, before releasing Korra, sending the Avatar crashing into a Sotomobile. Groaning, Korra stood up, knowing she'll definitely be feeling that in the morning, before quickly pushing the pain back to focus on the fight. Rotating her arms, Korra caused a geyser of water to shoot out from the sewer below Carnage, launching him into the air, before proceeding to shoot several fireballs at the spirit, only for the creature to bend the water around him and launch it at the fireballs, dousing them. Carnage then propelled himself towards the ground and slammed its fists down, causing an earth wave to rise up and rush towards Korra. something that still surprised the Avatar, seeing the spirit able to bend two elements. She was only able to create another earth wall at the last second, saving herself, with the creature leaping over the wall, roaring loudly, and unleashing a blast of crimson flames at her. Acting quickly, Korra bent the water in front of her before freezing it, with the flames impacting the ice and creating a mist. With Korra stomping on the ground, causing it to open up and suck her in, hiding her from the creature, so she can have some time to form a plan. Okay, somehow he's able to bend 3 elements, potentially 4, if he knows airbending as well. He's able to morph his body into weapons, and is also really durable. Just what is this thing? Korra thought, not sure what she's facing, and isn't even sure if she could beat it. When the ground suddenly opened up above her, Korra didn't hesitate to make an earth pillar and slamming it up into Carnage, before kicking her leg up, unleashing an arc of flames at him. Figuring the only chance she had to beat Carnage was by hitting him hard and fast until he went down. With that in mind, Korra jumped out of the hole, before proceeding to unleash a torrent of water at the spirit, freezing the water the moment it made contact with the creature. When she stopped, Carnage was now frozen in a large block of ice. Though the Avatar didn't stop there, stomping on the ground, she created 2 earth walls on either side of Carnage, before having them move towards it, slamming together, this breaking the ice and leaving him crushed between them. Making an opening in the walls, Korra then proceeded to thrust her fists forward, releasing a large blast of fire into the opening and towards the creature. While she wasn't sure if it'd be enough to take it down, Korra hoped it was enough to at least slow the spirit down for a few moments. Finally, Korra cut off the flames and looked at the partially melted earth walls, panting at the energy she just used. Well, that wasn't so difficult, Korra stated, after searching for any movement, but was glad not to see any, showing the creature was taken care of, at least for the moment, since something was telling the Avatar that wasn't enough to kill it. Unfortunately, before Korra could leave to meet up with her teammates in Naga, she stopped as her eyes widened, when she heard a familiar laughter. Looking, the girl couldn't believe her eyes, as she saw a red liquid leaking out of the walls, before rising up and reforming into Carnage, who smiled wickedly at her. "That all you got, Avatar?" Carnage taunted, as Korra unwillingly took a step back, not believing that he didn't have a scratch on him, even after all that. What are you?" Korra asked, before gasping in shock and pain, when her body began twisting and turning against her will, as she was put under the creature's blood-bending grip, while the creature laughed wickedly as its claws grew very long, dragging the tips along the grounds, creating sparks. "We are Carnage!" Carnage roared, before charging at Korra to slice her into pieces, with the Avatar closing her eyes, ready for the pain. Only it never came. Instead, Korra suddenly found herself free of the blood-bending grip, while hearing Carnage falling to the ground screaming. Looking, Korra was surprised when she saw Carnage rolling on the ground, as if in pain or fighting something within him. No, I won't go back yet. I could have her power. No one could stop us. We would be invincible. You can't make me go back yet," screamed Carnage, as Korra slowly circled it, ready to fight, should it suddenly attack her again, though she was also confused by the way it sounded like he was talking to someone. Could that person be fighting Carnage for control? Korra thought, wondering if that's what they have to deal with, constantly fighting for control of their own body against Carnage. Before Korra could contemplate this further, Carnage suddenly went limp on the ground, before the red and black suit seemed to recede back into the body of person inside it, with the person now no longer having their cloak anymore, allowing Korra to get a good look at them. Only for Korra to be shocked at seeing it wasn't a grown man. Instead, it was a 17-year-old teenager, the same age as her. He had unique bright spiky blonde hair with blood-red tips, pale skin, and 3 whisker marks on his cheeks, reminding Korra of a fox or cat. His attire consisted of black sandals, black pants with a red splatter pattern on them, and a crimson-red shirt, all of which were torn and damaged. He did say that he tried to go into self-exile. Is this a result of it? Korra thought, as she took note of how pale he was, and the state that his clothes were in. Though, she couldn't see what color his eyes were at the moment, given he was currently unconscious. Korra observed the teen for a few moments, wondering what she should do. Part of her knew she should take him straight to the metalbenders, to be locked away for everything he did. But another part knew that what happened likely wasn't his fault, and instead whatever that spirit inside him was. I really hope I don't regret this, thought Korra, going over and picking the teen up, wrapping an arm around his waist and throwing his arm over her shoulder, as the Avatar began the journey to find Naga and then get back to Air Temple Island. Later, Korra walked up to Tenzin, still carrying the teen with her, with the airbending master spotting his charge and quickly walked up to her. Thank goodness. I was just about to send out a search party. Are you all right? And who is this? Tenzin asked, putting a hand on Korra's shoulder while looking at the stranger curiously, with the Avatar shaking her head before setting the teen against the railing. Korra, what happened? Did you find your friend? Questioned Tenzin, worried something might have happened. Yes, but I was at an equalist rally. I saw Amon, Korra revealed, much to Tenzin's shock. What? Tenzin said. He could take people's bending away. For good, said Korra, as the realization began sinking in that before his own bending was taken, Amon had the ability to take away a person's bending. He could have taken away her bending. That's impossible. Only the Avatar has ever possessed that ability, Tenzin said, knowing for a fact that only the Avatar had that kind of power, while missing the past tense that Korra used in his shock. But I saw him do it, Korra said, needing Tenzin to believe her to understand just how dangerous Amon had been. I believe you. I don't know how Amon has achieved this power, but this means the revolution is more dangerous than ever. No bender is safe, Tenzin said, gravely as he looked out at Republic City. I wouldn't worry about Amon anymore. He's taken care of, said Korra, knowing without his bending, Amon wasn't a threat to anyone, especially with all his lies exposed. What are you talking about? Asked Tenzin, now confused by what she meant. That's not all I saw. I saw something else. Something horrible, said Korra, wrapping her arms around herself, remembering when Carnage first appeared and all the people he killed, with Tenzin looking at her in worry, wondering what other problems they had to worry about. Korra, what did you see? Does it have to do with this boy? Tenzin asked, needing to know what they're dealing with, if not Amon then who, while glancing at the stranger, wondering if he might be involved in what Korra was talking about. Tenzin, what do you know about Xie, the spirit of blood? Said Korra, with Tenzin's eyes widening in shock and horror at her question, while turning deathly pale at how she knew that name. How do you know that name? Said Tenzin, with Korra looking at the unconscious teen, with dread starting to well up in the airbending master. Because I just fought him, Korra revealed, wanting to know who this was, and what that thing inside of him was. She just hopes that she hasn't brought a monster into her home. Korra sighed as she sat within a guest room, where the stranger from the equalist rally was resting. Though the Avatar did remember that Carnage called him Naruto when he first appeared. I guess that's his name, Naruto, Korra thought as she looked at Naruto's unconscious form on the bed, before glancing at Tenzin, who stood by the door with a stoic expression. 3 days have passed since the disaster at the equalist rally and Korra bringing Naruto to Air Temple Island, with the boy having not woken up since their fight. Korra figuring that Carnage taking control of him, and then forcefully taking back control, took a lot out of him. After bringing Naruto to the island and getting him settled in a room, Korra had been pulled into Tenzin's study, where she had finally been able to get some answers. Flashback. Tenzin paced the length of his study, as dozens of thoughts raced through his head. After getting over his initial shock and horror at hearing Korra ask him who Xie is, along with the knowledge that the boy she brought to his family's home may somehow be connected to him, the airbending master had been tempted to call Lin and have her lock the boy up, not wanting to risk such a threat being near his family. He had only relented at Korra's insistence that the boy himself wasn't a threat, but whatever inside him was. So, Tenzin had allowed Korra to place him in a guest room, along with posting White Lotus sentries around the room, in case he woke up and needed to be restrained, before taking Korra to his study to get the full story of what happened. And safe to say, Tenzin was shocked and horrified by what he heard, at the knowledge that the boy may possibly have formed a pact with Xie to become his host, the resulting massacre, and the fact that he could earthbend, waterbend, and firebend, possibly airbend as well. The only thing that seemed to remotely calm him down was learning that the boy seemed to want Amon to take away his bending, along with the fact that before Carnage, as Korra called him, could kill her, he seemed to forcefully take back control. After she had finished telling him what happened, Tenzin had simply began pacing around the room to organize his now chaotic thoughts, while Korra sat on the floor, with the avatar starting to get impatient and wanting to finally get some answers. "Tenzin, can you stop pacing and just tell me, who is Xie?" Korra said, after reaching her limit, while also pulling Tenzin from his thoughts, as the airbending master sighed before sitting down across from the avatar. "I'm sure you've heard the story about the moon spirit and the ocean spirit," Tenzin stated, with Korra raising a brow in confusion, but nodded in response. "Yeah, Master Katara told me about it, along with when she, Aang, and Sokka traveled to the Northern Water Tribe," replied Korra, having heard plenty of stories of Aang's adventures with his friends, including how they met the ocean spirit La and the moon spirit Tue. "Yes, I'm sure she's told you, but I just wanted to be sure," said Tenzin, before standing up and going over to a bookshelf, where he searched for a specific scroll, before finally finding it and pulled it out. Sitting back down, Tenzin unrolled the scroll in front of Korra, with the girl being surprised to see that it showed a series of drawings, as if telling a story. Tue and La, the moon and the ocean, were among the first spirits to travel to the mortal world and assume physical forms. Together, they have been circling each other for eternity in an eternal dance, balancing each other. Good and evil, yin and yang, that is how it has always been," Tenzin said, pointing to the image of Tue and La in their physical forms of koi fish, circling each other, with Korra looking at the images as she felt entranced by it, as if they were actually moving, before Tenzin continued to speak. "But that is known only after they had taken their physical forms. Before that, when they still remained in the spirit world, there is more to their story," said Tenzin as he moved onto a new image, showing Korra who she guessed were Tue and La in their true spirit forms, but she also saw a third being. Thousands of years ago, the moon and ocean spirits were praised and revered by humanity, the ocean for providing food and nourishment, and the moon for the light it gives during their darkest times. But there was a third spirit, one who provided humanity the means to live. Xie, the blood spirit and brother of the ocean spirit, Tenzin said, with Korra's eyes widening at this knowledge. "Xie and La are brothers?" questioned Korra, having never heard any mention of the ocean spirit having a brother. "Yes. But while La was loved, Xie was regarded as evil and scorned, sparking hatred and jealous within Xie for being seen as evil, despite how his power and essence flowed through the veins of all living beings. But what truly drove Xie and La apart was the love they had for the moon spirit, each brother vying for her affection, and when Tue chose La over him, Xie was enraged. Since then Xie had despised both his brother and his wife, seeking for the chance to take his revenge on them both, with the chance arriving when both spirits traveled to mortal world and taught the first waterbenders. It was then that Xie cursed La and Tue's disciples, making it so when the moon and ocean are truly united, they will be transformed into children of blood," said Tenzin. "The full moon," Korra said as she realized what that meant, when the moon was full and waterbenders were at their strongest. "Correct. When the moon is full, the waterbenders' power is at their strongest, strong enough to bend the water within another living creature, their very blood. During these nights, waterbenders become weak to Sia's influence and power, the spirit of blood whispering in their ears, tempting them with the power to control all those around them, seeking those who have darkness within their hearts, so they can experience the same pain and hatred as he has. It is these waterbenders that become known as children of blood, having accepted the power Sia offers to become bloodbenders, with there being those who have enough power to not need a full moon to access this power. When Tue and Law learned of what Sia had done, he was cursed by his brother and his wife, transforming him into a dark spirit, a being of pure malice and hatred, who only seeks destruction wherever he goes, all the while whispering in the ears of the children of the moon and the ocean, seeking to corrupt them into his children of blood. Tenzin said as he finished the story, with Korra gulping as she saw a drawing of Sia that looked even more terrifying than Carnage. "But wait, I thought bloodbending was created during the 100-Year War by Hama. And how do you even know about all this, Tenzin?" Korra asked, having not been sure if Tenzin even knew who Sia was or not. "To answer your first question, I'll have to answer the second. It was years ago during my father's time, when he helped Police Chief Toph Beifong stop a crime lord named Yaquan, a powerful waterbender and bloodbender who possessed the unique ability to bloodbend someone with his mind, without the need of a full moon or any movements. It was after my father took away Yakone's bending that he sought to find out just how it was possible for someone to bloodbend, having developed doubts that Hama was the first person capable of such a thing. It was after his time in the spirit world that he learned about Sia and wrote down what he learned, all while keeping it a secret from everyone except my mother, not wanting knowledge of Sia to become public," Tenzin explained. "Katara knew?" asked Korra, surprised that her waterbending master knew about Sia. "Yes, she did, though I'm sure she wishes she didn't. The idea of criminals having the power to bloodbend was bad enough, but that there was an actual spirit who could influence all waterbenders in such a way. It's why my mother hates bloodbending, for the corrupting power it gives to make good people do horrible things," Tenzin said, having learned about his mother's journey with Fire Lord Zuko to hunt down the man who killed her mother, where she had actually bloodbent someone in her anger, that being the second and only other time she did so. "So, it's possible for other bloodbenders to be out there?" Korra said, now understanding just why Katara had gotten so angry with her when Korra once brought up bloodbending, having not fully understood why it was such a dark art. Now seeing that it wouldn't just be taking control of another human being and treating them like a puppet, but she'd also be under Sia's influence as well. It's possible there are, and they simply are better at hiding such abilities. But it seems this boy isn't just a bloodbender, he is Sia's host as well, and can somehow earthbend and firebend by some unknown means," said Tenzin, while frowning, as he was still wary of having the boy in his home, especially if he's the host of a truly evil spirit. "Then how exactly did you find out about Sia? If Aang only told Katara, how did you find out?" Korra asked with a frown, since she wondered how Tenzin knew, before seeing the airbender's shoulders slump, and he seemed to have aged a few years. "It's due to the reports we've been getting all throughout the Earth Kingdom," Tenzin said tiredly. "Reports?" Korra asked warily, not sure she wanted to know. "Massacres, dozens of them, entire towns of people being ripped apart, something pulled from your darkest nightmares. And all of them having one thing in common, there wasn't a drop of blood anywhere in sight," Tenzin revealed, while Korra paled at hearing this. "Sia," Korra said, with Tenzin nodding at her answer. "Yes. Given he is the spirit of blood, he is taking back what he believes is rightfully his, along with empowering himself, as the more blood he consumes, the stronger he becomes. At first, I simply believed it to be the work of dark spirits. But after some time, I learned about Xie. Where, like my father, I kept this knowledge a secret, not wanting to cause panic at this knowledge getting out, both against waterbenders as a whole and the spirits. Tenzin said, wondering if his father had felt this conflicted at knowing such a secret, but knowing why it needed to remain as such. But now it seemed that secret would soon be exposed if anyone had survived Carnage's attack and spread word of his presence. Korra gulped at this knowledge. While thankful that whoever Xie's host was, they managed to take back control before he could kill her or anyone else. And while part of Korra wanted to blame him for such horrific actions, she felt that he's just as much a victim as everyone else, being controlled and used by Xie. And she'll try to help him any way she could. End flashback. Since then, Korra's been checking on Naruto in between her airbending training, waiting for him to wake up. With Tenzin joining her this time, as from what the sentries have reported, he's been stirring more often, showing he's likely to wake up soon. As if on K, Korra saw that Naruto's eyes fluttered open, revealing they were a bright blue color with flecks of red in them. With the teen glancing around the room, before looking at her and Tenzin for a moment, then up at the ceiling, while letting out a resigned-sounding sigh. How many? Naruto asked, with Korra wincing at the question, having a feeling she knew what it implied, given her knowledge of the massacres in the Earth Kingdom. How many bodies this time? Likely a couple dozen, maybe fewer, I think. Korra answered, having gotten a rough estimate of the amount of deaths, after Tenzin informed the metalbenders of the location of the rally and finding the aftermath of Carnage's attack. At least it wasn't too many this time, muttered Naruto, with Korra wincing once again, wondering just how many times this has happened, that he's relieved the number was only a few dozen. Well, I'm Korra, the Avatar. And that's Tenzin, my airbending teacher, Korra said as she waved awkwardly at Naruto, who glanced at them for a few moments. Naruto, replied Naruto, before sitting up, raising brow, when he saw he wasn't in chains or restrained in any way, before noticing some kind of tag attached to his chest, under his shirt. What is this thing? Naruto asked. A talisman created by me and the White Lotus, used to suppress and trap dark spirits. We placed it on you to suppress Xie, making it so he can't control you. Hopefully, it will last long enough to find a way for us to separate him from you. Tenzin answered, with Naruto looking at him with a raised brow. Good luck with that, said Naruto, doubting they'd find a way to remove Carnage. Even if they did, he'd just jump into another host, like he said he would. Something he admittedly hadn't considered when he tried getting Amon to take his bending. Only thinking of having it and Xie gone, so he wouldn't kill anyone else. But that plan obviously failed, and at this point, Naruto's resigning himself to being stuck with Xie for the rest of his very long life. Tenzin frowned at his words, sounding as if he didn't expect them to succeed in finding a way to remove Xie. Now, Naruto, if you don't mind answering a few questions for us. How exactly did you become Xie's host? Tenzin asked, with Korra looking at him, also curious about how he came into contact with Xie, as Naruto looked between the two, before sighing. I was a kid. I grew up in a small village, in the northwestern part of the Earth Kingdom with my mother, who was a waterbender, as well as the resident healer and hunter. It was nice, especially when I eventually showed to be a waterbender, as well. But then one day, we were attacked by dark spirits. They just attacked and started killing people, including my mother. I was angry, angrier than I've ever been. I would have died too, but then I heard a voice. It offered me the power to save myself and have my revenge. I didn't bother to think it over, so I immediately accepted the chance to have revenge and live, said Naruto. It was Xie, wasn't it? Korra said, with Naruto nodding in confirmation. Yeah, I opened the door and Sia happily walked through, taking me as a host. That's when Carnage was born. We ripped apart the dark spirits and absorbed their power, but also everyone else that was still alive. When I finally regained control, I was surrounded by bodies, then I just ran. I was terrified at what I just did, and the fact that Sia was still inside me. So I isolated myself, avoided settlements and people in general, only entering towns when I had no choice, and survived by hunting. But Sia isn't the type to just lie down and keep quiet, Naruto replied. The killings? Tenzin asked. Feedings. Sia sustains and empowers himself by devouring blood. The more he has, the stronger he gets. And the longer he goes without drinking any, the harder it is to control him, until he finally breaks free. What you saw at the rally, that was 2 months of keeping him locked up, Naruto revealed, shocking them both. Spirits, how did you survive that long on your own? Asked Korra, shocked at what she was hearing. I'm able to satisfy him for some time, with animal blood, but it's not the same. He says that human blood tastes better, especially when they're terrified. It keeps him down for a while, but he always comes back. So my advice, when this tag starts failing, and it will, make sure you're far, far away. Because he'll eventually come out, and he'll be hungry and angry. Naruto said, shivering slightly when he thought about the time Sia got angry. Sia didn't torture you, did he? Tenzin asked, frowning, with Korra looking at Naruto, hoping that wasn't the case, only for him to nod. Nothing too bad, since he wants to make sure I'm in top condition when he's in control. At most, he slows my blood to a near crawl, slowing my heartbeat down to the point one would think I was dead, replied Naruto, while looking at his pale skin, a result of Sia's punishments. Okay, well, what about the fact you can firebend and earthbend? How can you do that? Korra asked, wanting to move on from the dark topic, while wanting to finally get an answer of how he can bend 3 elements. It's one of the abilities I get as CS vessel. I gain the abilities of anyone whose blood I drain, which in turn grants me the ability to earthbend and firebend. With my bending also growing stronger, the more benders I drain, Naruto answered, surprising the two, while Korra had a feeling of dread inside her. If you hadn't interfered, Carnage would have drained my blood, stated Korra, with Naruto nodding in confirmation, while Tenzin's eyes widened in horror at the realization of what would have happened. While Korra saw how dangerous Carnage was alone, she could just imagine how dangerous he'd be when empowered by the Avatar state and having all 4 elements at his control. She could only imagine him tearing his way through everyone and everything until the entire world was in ruins. All while he grows stronger and stronger with the more blood he devours. It definitely didn't paint a pretty picture, with Korra being terrified of such a thing happening. Like I said, make sure you're far away when Carnage comes back, Naruto said, knowing if Carnage absorbed the Avatar's blood, then no one would be safe. Any other questions? Naruto asked, while looking between the two, with them both shaking their heads. No, not at the moment, answered Tenzin. And here's a radio you can listen to while you rest, Korra said, while motioning to the radio on the dresser before turning it on. Tensions continued to rise, in the wake of the revelation with Amon being outed as a bloodbender. Bending gangs grow increasingly bold. Protesters outside of City Hall. Equalist remnants claiming spirits are demons. Bending seen as evil. You know what? Who listens to the radio anymore? Korra said, sheepishly, while turning the radio off after seeing it was only talking about Amon, bending gangs, and remnants of the Equalists, along with basically how bad things were getting in the city right now, after that disaster of a rally. With Korra unable to resist the urge to facepalm and groan, wondering how a simple mission to save a friend could turn out so badly. Sorry. If I hadn't been at the rally, none of this would be happening, said Naruto, knowing he's partly responsible for what's happening, given if he hadn't come to Republic City, then Carnage wouldn't have come out and exposed Amon as a bloodbender. It doesn't matter. Even if you hadn't been at the rally, then Amon would still be in power and all benders would be in danger, with his ability to take away a person's bending. Perhaps, at least this way, we can contain the oncoming chaos in Republic City, rather than it being spread to the rest of the world, said Tenzin. So, we were basically damned if we do and damned if we don't. Korra deadpanned, seeing that no matter what, they would have been screwed, with the only good thing being that benders were no longer in danger of having their bending taken, unless Carnage kept doing what he did to Amon. Though the Avatar figured that Carnage cared more about killing than taking away bending. Now they could only hope that Tenzin was right, and that they could contain the oncoming chaos before it grows into something worse. Korra laid in her bed, sleeping peacefully, only to shoot up awake and alarmed when a shadowy figure ran past the door, with the Avatar hearing their footsteps. Only to be shocked when an equalist chi blocker suddenly burst through her window, while two broke through the door. Jumping out of bed, Korra spun in the air and kicked her leg down, releasing an arc of flame at the equalists, forcing them back. Before she unleashed another arc of flames, sending them further back, with the chi blockers dodging the fire before rushing towards the Avatar. With Korra shooting out two jets of flames to keep them away from her, just as one jumped off the table and tried getting her with a spin kick, only for Korra to block it with her arm, before shooting more fire at them. But while she was focused on the first two, the Avatar didn't see the third one roll into a space just out of her sight, before striking her repeatedly, with Korra suddenly losing her ability to bend and stand. As she shouted and fell to her knees helpless, only to be horrified when she looked up and saw Amon as he was before Carnage took his bending. "After I take your bending away, you will be nothing," Amon said before reaching his hand to Korra's face, with the girl being terrified at what was about to happen. Only for things to get even worse, when a tendril of blood impaled Amon through the chest, before multiple tendrils stretched out stabbing the chi blockers as well, with Korra's horror growing as she watched the blood be absorbed from their bodies before they were tossed aside. Then she heard laughter, as Carnage jumped into the room and landed right on top of her, pinning the Avatar to the ground. "All your power will now be mine," Carnage said with a demented grin, before opening his mouth wide open and descended towards Korra. Korra shot up screaming in her bed, panting and sweating as she looked at herself for any injuries, before she felt something familiar touch her hand. Looking, Korra gave a small thankful smile at seeing Naga licking her hand, before the polar bear dog rested her head on Korra's lap. It's all right, Naga. I just had a bad dream," said Korra, petting her companion before hugging her, thankful for Naga's presence. Looking out her window, Korra found her attention drawn to the full moon before she caught sight of someone sitting outside. "Is that?" Korra thought, before narrowing her eyes at the figure and realizing it was Naruto, surprised to see him up and out of his room. Given how the whiskered blonde hadn't been out of his room after waking up 2 days ago, she didn't expect to see him out this soon. Curious to see what he's doing and doubting she'll be able to fall asleep again, Korra got up and exited her room. Leaving the dormitory, Korra walked up to see Naruto sitting on a cliff with one leg hanging off and the other pulled up to his chest, while his head was tilted up, looking at the moon. "Is there something I can help you with, Korra?" Naruto said without looking, surprising the Avatar that he knew it was her. "Oh no, I just saw you out here and wanted to see how you were doing. Is it alright if I join you?" asked Korra, with Naruto shrugging and motioning her forward, with the girl going over and sitting beside him. "So, nice night, huh?" Korra stated awkwardly, not sure how else to start a conversation, given her past attempts to speak with Naruto hadn't gone very well or were met with silence. "I guess," replied Naruto as his gaze never once left the full moon, with Korra's own eyes soon looking up at it as well, as the two fell silent for a few moments. "It's funny, I can't even remember the last time I saw the full moon with my own eyes," Naruto said softly, with the avatar looking at him in surprise. "What do you mean?" Korra asked, with Naruto raising a hand to his chest. "Sia always takes control on nights like these when the full moon is out, since it's when his power is at its strongest, like all bloodbenders," answered Naruto. "He takes control every night of the full moon," said Korra, with a blonde nodding. "Yeah. Mostly he just shouts at Tue and Law, insulting them, cursing them, all the ways he'd kill them and devour their physical bodies," Naruto said, with Korra stiffening at that, realizing it was a very real possibility that Sia, or Carnage, could in fact kill Tue and Law. All he'd have to do is travel to the North Pole, kill anyone that gets in his way, and he'd be able to kill both spirits, since they're nothing but helpless koi fish. With Naruto finally looking at her, upon feeling her unease. If he wanted to, he would have killed them by now. Mostly, he just enjoys taunting them with the knowledge he could kill them, but he chooses not to, seeing it as his own personal revenge, that he's free to kill people and corrupt waterbenders, all while they can't do anything to stop him, Naruto said, relieving the avatar slightly. "He can really hold a grudge, can't he?" muttered Korra, surprised at the extent Sia would go to spite his brother and sister-in-law. Actually, Sia doesn't care that they cursed him and turned him into a dark spirit. In fact, he's expressed his gratitude that he's no longer bound by morals, that he could fully embrace his true nature. No, he just despises them, all spirits really. Dark spirits or light spirits, they're all the same to him, pests to be wiped out. Most of them, anyway, Naruto added, as Korra looked at him with wide eyes. "How are you still sane?" Korra asked, wondering how anyone could still be sane after everything he's seen and experienced under CS control. "I'm just desensitized, the killing, the blood, the constant voice in my head telling me to just tear open someone's throat and drain them dry," said Naruto, shrugging, while Korra looked at him sadly as she wondered just how much he's been through. "No one should have to be like that," Korra said, wishing there was something she could do to help him, but she knew absolutely nothing about spirits and was about as spiritually connected as a rock. "It is what it is. I've accepted that Sia will likely always be part of my life, and it's better me than someone else. Someone who'd happily let him run wild to unleash death and destruction," stated Naruto, knowing how bad it'd be if Sia had gotten a host that was more willingly to kill people. Enough depressing topics. "What about you?" Naruto asked, with looking at Korra, who tilted her head in confusion. "What about me?" asked Korra, as the corners of Naruto's mouth twitching up. "I mean, what are you like? Everyone looks at you and see the avatar, but what about Korra the person?" Naruto said, surprising Korra, since it was the first time anyone in Republic City has asked about her, and not have it be related to her position as the avatar. "Oh well, that isn't really much to tell. I was born in the Southern Water Tribe, and for the first 4 years, I was just a normal little girl. Then I learned that I wasn't just a waterbender, but also a firebender and earthbender. You couldn't imagine how excited I was to learn that I was the avatar. And you should have seen the faces of the White Lotus sentries that had shown up for proof. And what I said was, 'I'm the avatar, you gotta deal with it,'" Korra said, while laughing as she remembered the looks on their faces when she launched a piece of stone past them, along with bending fire and water, while Naruto smirked. "I can imagine it'd be a shock," stated Naruto. "And then I began my training to master the elements, starting out with waterbending, obviously. I was trained by Master Katara, learning everything she had to teach me both about fighting and healing. It was actually during my training that I met my best friend Naga," said Korra, while smiling at the memories. "The polar bear dog?" Naruto said, having seen it a few times, with Korra nodding. "Yeah. It had been during one of my lessons with Katara, when a snowstorm started, and we heard a pack of polar bear dogs howling in the winds. I had been told to stay inside, but I never was one to do what I'm told, so I snuck out at night, only to end up getting lost. That's when I met Naga, who had gotten separated from her pack. I built a makeshift igloo around us and tried making a fire, but I wasn't the best firebender back then, since Katara wanted me to master waterbending before I started on the other elements. It was around then I started learning that being the Avatar wasn't all fun and games, like I thought it would be. But Naga was there to cheer me up, and I was happy that I finally had a friend I could talk to. The next morning, my dad found us and brought us home, and I was allowed to keep Naga. We've been together ever since, said Korra, smiling, since she was always glad to have met Naga. What happened next? Naruto asked, with the Avatar's smile fading as she sighed and frowned. It wasn't long until, for some reason, I was secluded in the White Lotus compound within the Southern Water Tribe. I never really liked it there since I was hardly ever allowed outside, and always had to train in mastering my bending. It wasn't until I learned that Tenzin wouldn't be moving to the South Pole to teach me airbending that I finally left and came here, both to learn airbending and finally make a choice of what I was going to do, rather than let someone else make it for me, said Korra. If there's one thing I've learned, Korra, it's to never let someone try and make decisions for you. The only person that knows what's best for you is you. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. If you think you're making the right choice, then to do it. But also be aware of the consequences of the choices you make, said Naruto, with Korra looking at him, and saw the sullen look on his face, realizing he was also talking about his own choices, like when he gave himself to Xie. But she also nodded in agreement at his words, glad someone respected her desire to make her own decisions. The two then fell into silence again, as they looked out over the bay, before Korra decided to ask him something that she's been wanting to ask ever since he woke up. Hey Naruto, could I ask you something personal? Korra asked, with Naruto looking at her, while feeling a little wary of what she wanted to ask. What? Asked Naruto. What's it like being a bloodbender? Korra said, having only heard a little of it from Katara, mostly about how it was a dark art that only brought pain. But she couldn't deny her curiosity about wanting to hear what it was like from Naruto, given how he's been bonded to the creator of bloodbending most of his life. She figured he, more than anyone, would know the most about the art. Oh, muttered Naruto, not expecting that question. It's fine if you don't want to talk about, Korra said quickly, thinking she might have overstepped her boundaries. No, it's fine, I just wasn't expecting that, Naruto said, before thinking over what to say. Bloodbending it's a dark art, as there's no way to justify controlling another person in such a way, even more so with the way Amon was using it to take people's bending. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have other uses, said Naruto. Like what? Korra asked, with Naruto tapping one of his ears in response. I can hear a person's or animal's heartbeat, the blood being pumped through their bodies. I can hear the heartbeat of every living thing on this island. It's how I knew you were approaching earlier, said Naruto, surprising Korra as she unconsciously placed a hand over her heart. You could tell it was me just from my heartbeat? Korra asked, amazed at such an ability, since it reminded her of the seismic sensing ability that was created and used by Toph Beifong. Yeah, you have a very unique heartbeat, Naruto said, knowing how that sounded. Do you listen to my heartbeat often? Questioned Korra, with Naruto nodding slowly. Yeah. It's calming, I guess. Normally I try to block out the sounds of people's heartbeats, since it's harder to keep Carnage suppressed. With the more heartbeats I hear, the more blood he can drain. But with you, I just feel a sense of peace when I hear it, said Naruto, while looking anywhere but at Korra, who looked at him with wide eyes. Oh, Korra said, not sure what else to say. It's creepy, isn't it? Naruto stated, believing she'd be freaked out at him listening to her heartbeat. No. I mean, Maybe, but I'm glad that I'm able to help you in some way. If it helps you, then I have no problem with you listening," said Korra, while smiling at Naruto, glad that she was able to help him in some way, even if it was indirectly. Naruto looked at Korra in surprise, not sure what to think, but was glad that she wasn't freaked out before he slowly returned the smile. Though the two looked down and were surprised when they saw Korra's hand on top of Naruto's, before they quickly retracted them. "So, what else can bloodbending do?" Korra asked, while looking away with a light blush on her face. "Well, I'm also able to tell if someone is lying, just by listening to their heartbeat. I'm also able to sense anomalies in a person's blood, like if they have an illness, or have poison or venom in them. And if it's the latter, you'd be able to isolate the poison or venom to a specific area and have it extracted. And probably one of the most useful abilities is that if you're strong enough, you can even resist another person's bloodbending grip," said Naruto, with Korra once again looking at him in amazement at everything he could do with bloodbending. With the Avatar seeing that while bloodbending was a dark art, it still had its own uses. With Korra knowing that after everything she'd learned about Xia, bloodbending wasn't something she could ignore, especially on the chance she ever encountered other bloodbenders. "Naruto, would you be able to?" Korra said, only to be cut off. "No," said Naruto, already knowing what she was about to ask, and he sure as hell wasn't going to do that. "You didn't even let me finish," said Korra, annoyed at the interruption. "I already know what you were going to say. You want me to teach you bloodbending, and my answer is no," Naruto said. "But what about everything you just said? Everything it can do, and how useful it'd be if I can do all that?" Korra argued, knowing while she'd never used bloodbending on another person, she can't deny how useful it'd be to learn it. "I'm not teaching you bloodbending, Korra." "Drop it," said Naruto, while looking at her warningly, but Korra wasn't one to back down. "Oh, but you're free to use it however you want. I'm the Avatar. I'm supposed to master all the elements. And last I checked, bloodbending is part of waterbending, so I do have to learn it," Korra retorted, standing up and glaring at him, with Naruto standing up and returning the glare. "I don't have a choice in using it or not," said Naruto. "But you have a choice now. Either you can teach me, or I learn it on my own," Korra said, knowing if Naruto didn't teach her, she'll find some other way to learn bloodbending. She didn't know how, only that she'd do it without having to hurt anyone or anything. All while Naruto looked at her in disbelief that she'd go that far, just to make him teach her bloodbending, knowing if he didn't, and she still tried, someone would get hurt. "You really don't get it, do you? If you learn bloodbending, whether you use it or not, you will become a child of blood. For the rest of your life, you'll be weak to Xia's influence. He will always have a hold on you, and be there at any moment of weakness. If you give even an inch, he will not stop until you are under his complete control." "Is that really worth the risk, Korra?" Naruto demanded, with Korra's determination wavering slightly at this, only for it to solidify a moment later. "Yes. Now, are you going to teach me or not?" Korra said, refusing to give up, no matter what the risks are, with Naruto looking at her for a moment, knowing he didn't have a choice. At least if he taught her, there would be less of a risk of her hurting herself, or someone else, along with there being a better chance of it being kept a secret, so no one would find out that the Avatar was learning to bloodbend. "Fine. But we do it my way. You'll do what I say, when I say it. You won't ask questions, you won't hesitate, and you will not tell anyone what we're doing. Not Tenzin, not your parents, not your friends, no one finds out. Understood?" Naruto said, with Korra nodding, knowing how bad it'd be if other people found out. "Yes, and I'm sorry for basically forcing you to teach me. But thank you for agreeing," said Korra, feeling a little guilty at making Naruto agree to teach her, but she knew how important it'd be to learn bloodbending, while Naruto sighed and nodded. "It's fine. But you should go get some sleep. You'll have a lot of training in the morning," said Naruto, with Korra nodding, since she now had not only airbending training, but bloodbending training as well. With the girl turned to return to her room, feeling like she could actually get some sleep after talking with Naruto, before she stopped and looked back at the blonde. "Hey Naruto, I just have one more question," said Korra, since something else has been bugging her, with Naruto looking at her curiously. "It's about Sia. Whenever he takes control, why does he refer to the both of you as Carnage? Why doesn't he use his actual name?" Korra asked, having been confused as to why Sia chose to use the name Carnage, rather than his actual name. "Huh, it's funny. That was actually one of the first questions I asked him," said Naruto. "What was his answer?" asked Korra. "Spirits can be forgotten, spirits can be killed. But a monster is never forgotten, a monster is immortal. A monster will always haunt the darkest corners of humanity's minds. We will be the monster they never forget. We are now and forevermore Carnage," Naruto said, repeating the exact words Sia had told him, while Korra gulped at hearing. "Well, I'm sure he's succeeded there," muttered Korra, with Naruto nodding in agreement. Korra then returned to her room, while Naruto sat back down and looked over the bay. Though unknown to the two, Tenzin had been eavesdropping on their conversation, the airbending master having had trouble sleeping and decided to go for a walk around the island, only to stumble onto Naruto and Korra talking. While he didn't hear everything that was said, Tenzin did hear their argument over teaching Korra bloodbending. He had been tempted to jump in and put a stop to it right then and there. But the more he thought about it, along with what other abilities one could gain from bloodbending, Tenzin thought that perhaps it would be a good thing for Korra to learn bloodbending, should she ever encounter other bloodbenders. With the airbending master also make a note to help Korra more with her spiritual training and meditation, to ensure she wouldn't be susceptible to CS influence, along with silently agreeing to not tell anyone about Naruto training Korra, especially his mother. Knowing how she'd react to the knowledge of Korra learning bloodbending, even more so that she was being trained by Sia's own host. Knowing there wasn't anything else to do, Tenzin returned to his and Pema's room, while mentally working out the details and changes to Korra's schedule to fit with her new training. The next morning found Naruto going to the dining room for breakfast with Tenzin, his family, and Korra, since he didn't really have the option to stay locked in his room anymore. Given how he would now be training Korra, the blonde figured he might as well start interacting with the other residents of the island. When he arrived, Naruto saw that Korra and the airbending family were already present, before looking up in surprise at seeing him. "Naruto, I'm surprised to see you," Tenzin stated, not having expected to see Naruto. "I just figured I couldn't stay locked up in my room all day. I can leave if I'm disturbing you," said Naruto. "No, please join us. I'm Pema, Tenzin's wife, and these are Jinora, Iki, and Milo," Pema said, while offering Naruto a kind smile, despite what Tenzin told her and the children about him. Given how he wanted his family to at least be aware of the danger that Naruto being here posed, since even with the talisman, the airbender wanted to make sure his family was safe and careful, and to make sure that Iki and Milo didn't do anything that could draw CS ire, in the chance that he returns. He also didn't tell them the more gruesome details, just that Naruto was the host of a very dangerous spirit, and that they shouldn't do anything that might provoke it. Nodding, Naruto sat down beside Korra, while seeing the airbending children all looked at him with varying expressions of awe, amazement, and intrigue. Not something Naruto was used to seeing on people's faces, so he wasn't sure how to respond to them. Naruto, would it be alright if I ask you something?" Jinora asked, unable to deny her curiosity and interest to learn more about what it was like being the host of a spirit. Looking at the girl, Naruto looked at Tenzin and Pema to see if they'd be alright with it. Upon seeing the two nod, Naruto looked at Jinora and nodded. "What's it like, being the host of a spirit?" asked Jinora, with Naruto frowning in thought, wondering how he could respond without scarring them. It's definitely a strange experience, sharing my body with another being. I can sense and feel the spirit within me, while also being able to communicate with it. The more time passed, the more linked, I guess you could say, we became. I also became more spiritually connected, even being able to enter the spirit world if I want to. Naruto answered, much to the surprise of Jinora, Korra, and Tenzin. You can enter the spirit world? Asked Tenzin, amazed to hear that he could enter the spirit world, with Naruto nodding. Yes, I can enter it from anywhere if I want to. I can even physically enter the spirit world, in areas that are spiritually connected with it, Naruto revealed, much to their amazement. Would I be able to do that? Asked Korra, wondering if she'd be able to physically enter the spirit world in such locations, due to her being the avatar and all. Maybe, Naruto replied, while shrugging. What's it like in the spirit world? Jinora asked, eager to hear this. It's hard to describe, only that it's a good place to be to get away from your worries and just exist, said Naruto, having enjoyed the few trips he made to the spirit world. Since they were the few moments, he was able to just forget about everything else. It sounds wonderful, Jinora said, while smiling as she hoped to one day travel to the spirit world. With that, the airbending family and Korra continued eating breakfast, with Naruto getting a plate as well, but didn't eat much. Ever since he became CS host, he didn't really need to eat normal food anymore, while being able to survive on blood alone. While he could still eat, it wasn't really a necessity. With it being something that set Naruto further apart from other people, something Sia always enjoyed reminding him of. Once they finished, Tenzin had left to go to a council meeting, while having Naruto join him on the walk to the pier. You needed me for something? Naruto asked as they walked outside. I just wanted to inform you that I was able to make an arrangement with the Republic City Blood Bank. They're willing to send over a steady supply of blood in order to keep Yunoho under control, Tenzin said, having been able to come up with a believable lie as to why he needed a supply of blood sent over, while Naruto looked at him in surprise that he did that. Thanks, said Naruto after a few moments, knowing that would at least make it so Sia wasn't starving and hungry when he came out again. Though that didn't mean he wouldn't be incredibly pissed off when he did come out. It's the least I can do. Hopefully, it will be enough to keep Sia sated and ensure that the seal will last as long as possible. Oh no, Tenzin said, when they reached the pier and saw Chief Lin Beifong standing there. I take it she knows, stated Naruto, with Tenzin nodding in resignation, having hoped to put off this meeting for as long as possible. Yes, I had to tell her. Otherwise she would have called for a widespread manhunt after the scene from the rally, Tenzin replied as the two reached the dock. Lin, you look as lovely as ever. What can I do for you? Asked Tenzin, with Lin narrowing her eyes at her ex, before turning to Naruto and fixing a wary, suspicious glare on him. We both know why I'm here, Tenzin. To make sure there isn't a lunatic killer running loose in Republic City, Lin said bluntly, while not wasting time with any pleasantries. Well, aren't you just a ball of sunshine? Naruto deadpanned, with Lin narrowing her eyes at the teen. I don't care what I am. What I do care about is making sure this city and its citizens are safe from any and all threats. What you did a few days ago, whether you were in control or not, that qualifies as a threat. So let me make this perfectly clear. If you or that thing inside you do anything to endanger my city, my officers, I won't hesitate to put you down, Lin said, with Naruto not being the least bit fazed by the threat, since he knew they couldn't do anything to him, let alone actually have a chance of killing him. Invest in stronger armor, Carnage rips through metal like paper. Or get a different material, since he can simply bend a metal and crush you in it, said Naruto, knowing that's the main reason they wouldn't stand a chance, since Carnage would just metal bend their cables right back at them, or even turn their armor into iron maidens around them. Lin narrowed her eyes, before scoffing as she returned to the boat, but did mentally note down his words. With Tenzin sighing, while giving Naruto an apologetic look, which he waved off, before going down to the boat as well, to head for City Hall. Later, after Korra had finished her airbending exercises for the day, she had gone to meet Naruto in the forest on the island, somewhere nice and secluded, to start her bloodbending training. And the Avatar couldn't deny, she actually felt a little excited to be learning such a thing. "So what are we going to be starting on first?" Korra asked as she sat across from Naruto, wondering where they'll start. "Normally, we'd be starting on a full moon, when waterbenders are at their strongest. But since the last full moon was last night, I don't think it'd be a good idea to wait an entire month to begin teaching you bloodbending. So instead, we'll focus on something simple, but still useful, that doesn't require the full moon." "Listening for a person's heartbeat," said Naruto, with Korra nodding, as she was eager to learn this, while being glad that it was something simple and not dangerous. "I'm guessing that's why we're out here, alone?" Korra said, with Naruto nodding at her words. "Correct. It's easier to learn when you only focus on 1 or 2 heartbeats at a time, along with avoiding the chance of being overloaded by hearing too many at once. Now, close your eyes," instructed Naruto, with Korra doing so, while Naruto followed not long after. "Now focus. Block out the sounds around you, the wind, the ocean, the leaves, the animals, even your breathing. Block it all out, and listen for the beat," Naruto said, with Korra giving a small nod as she began focusing, while working to block out the noise around her. It took a few moments, but soon every sound around her began fading away, until Korra couldn't even hear her own breathing. With the only thing left was the darkness from her closed eyes. For a few moments, Korra didn't hear anything and began thinking that something was wrong, until she finally heard it. Bottom, 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 bottom. Korra's eyes flew open with a gasp, while seeing Naruto looking at her with a small smile. "You heard it," Naruto stated, with the girl nodding in amazement and excitement. "I did. I actually heard a heartbeat," said Korra, while smiling at how she managed to actually hear it, and so quickly at that. "You did great, Korra. I'm actually surprised that you managed to get it down that quickly. But of course, that was the easy part. Now, we'll be working on you being able to hear it without focusing, before moving on to hearing it above other sounds. Once you're able to do all that, we'll start building you up to being able to listen to multiple heartbeats, then being able to tell what a person is feeling by the way their heart beats," said Naruto, with Korra nodding, eager to continue on as they closed their eyes again, knowing that the rest of her training likely won't be as easy. Time skip 2 days. 2 days have passed since Korra began her bloodbending training under Naruto, and so far, she's made good progress in listening to people's heartbeats. But not as much as she would have liked. She's managed to successfully hear a heartbeat above the sound of other noises. But unfortunately, that was about as much progress as she's made since she's been unable to begin learning to hear multiple heartbeats at once. Korra had been a little disappointed that she wasn't picking it up as quickly as when she first tried, having expected it to be easy since she's the Avatar and originally a waterbender. With Naruto reminding her that while bloodbending originates from waterbending, it's still unlike any other form of bending, something that Korra accepted and knew it'll take much longer for her to get it down, especially since Naruto had the advantage in being CS host. With that also being another problem, since they had to take things slow and carefully to make sure Xie didn't gain too much influence over her too quickly. Though not all things were good, with Councilman Tarlok having suddenly shown up at dinner and asked Korra to join his task force, one he's assembling to hunt down the remaining equalists and the monster that had attacked the rally. With the Avatar being thankful that Naruto wasn't there to hear that, not liking how he was seen as a monster and killer when he wasn't in control of himself. Korra had rejected his offer, since she wouldn't admit it, but she was still terrified of Carnage. Both at the thought of him killing her and taking her power for himself, along with the fact that he could also take away her bending, like he did to Amon, the latter of whom Korra was also still scared of. As even with him no longer being a threat, with his bending gone and exposure as a fraud, she was still scared of what he could have done had Carnage not shown up. Currently Naruto and Korra were sitting outside the dormitories, with Korra rubbing Naga's belly. Though she soon heard two sets of footsteps approaching and looked to see Bolin, Mako, and Pabu. "Hello, fellow teammate," Bolin greeted. "Hey, Korra," Mako said with a wave, before glancing at Naruto curiously. "Hey, Bolin, Mako," Korra replied. "Missed you at practice this week," stated Bolin since they hadn't seen Korra at practice since the rally. "Yeah, sorry about that," said Korra, feeling bad about how she hasn't been showing up for practice recently, due to her having a lot on her mind lately. "It's fine. It probably doesn't even matter since we don't have the money to add to the tournament pot," said Mako, disappointed that they won't be participating in the tournament. "Anyways, the reason I came by was to give you this. Tada," Bolin said, while pulling out a cupcake and a rose, surprising Korra at the gift, before she glanced at Naruto when she felt his heartbeat pick up slightly, and saw a brief flash of annoyance on his face. "Wow, thanks. What's this for?" asked Korra, not sure what the gift was for. Oh, I can't remember now." "Oh yeah, now I remember. You saved me from Amon. Not to mention that crazy Carnage guy," answered Bolin, like it was obvious. "Hey, I was there too. Where's my cupcake?" Mako asked, while frowning. There was only one cupcake. Bolin deadpanned, with Korra giggling, before holding the cupcake out for Mako. "Here, tough guy," said Korra, only for Mako to wave it off, since he was just messing with his brother. "And that? It was no big deal," Korra said to Bolin with a shrug. "No big deal? Are you serious? I was totally freaking out when he was coming at me with his creepy mask all, 'I will take away your bending forever.' And then Carnage showing up and going all RAHH blood. More blood. I mean, that is scary stuff. I still can't sleep well," Bolin said, while shivering, since he still had nightmares about what happened. "So who's this?" asked Mako, wanting to steer the conversation away from the current topic, and he was curious of who Naruto was. "Oh right. Guys, this is Naruto, a friend staying on the island. Naruto, these are my teammates on the Fire Ferrets and friends, Mako and Bolin. He was at the rally but was able to get away," Korra said, knowing it wasn't her place to tell them who Naruto really is, and wasn't sure how they would react. Oh, sorry if I," Bolin said, now feeling awkward at bringing up the rally to someone else who had been there. "It's fine, I'm just glad to have made it out alive," said Naruto. "You were at the rally?" Mako asked, while narrowing his eyes, given it had originally been an equalist rally. "Yes. And no, I'm not an equalist, nor do I support them. I'm not even a non-bender, I'm a waterbender. I only went to see if Amon actually wished to create equality between benders and non-benders, with the only thing that I saw being a madman and a liar," said Naruto, while bending some water to prove his point, making Mako relax and nod in agreement about Amon. Suddenly, everyone's attention turned to the council page showing up, with a large basket of flowers and other gifts, making Korra groan at the sight, since it wasn't the first gift that Tarlok sent her to try and make her change her mind. "Delivery for Avatar Korra. Tarlok sends his compliments and urges you to reconsider his offer," said the page. "Tell him I haven't changed my mind," Korra replied, with the page bowing before walking off. "Tarlok?" Mako asked. "Who's this Tarlok guy? Is he bothering you?" "Huh? 'cause I could have a word with him," said Bolin, while punching his fist into his hand. "Heh, no, it's not like that. He's just some old guy who works with Tenzin on the council," Korra said, while amused at the idea of Bolin beating up Tarlok. "Oh, good. Good, that sounds better. I like that better," said Bolin. "Well, I gotta get going, since I'm meeting someone soon. See ya," Mako said, before turning and leaving, while giving them a wave. Having come to check up on Korra, but still needed to meet up with Asami to go meet her father. Later, City Hall. The rest of the day, Korra had to deal with Tarlok sending her more and more gifts, each more extravagant than the last, one of which even being a brand new Sato mobile. With Korra only growing more and more annoyed with each gift, and that Tarlok wouldn't take no for an answer. With his most recent gift being the most extravagant, with it being a gala that he was throwing in her honor, which actually intrigued Korra. With the Avatar agreeing to go, if only out of curiosity to see it for herself and a chance to get some time off the island. Though she had also asked Naruto to go with her, not wanting him to be left alone on the island while they were gone. Naruto was reluctant to go, but was more annoyed that he had to dress up in a suit for it. "I never thought I'd actually prefer my other suit," Naruto said as they entered City Hall. "Come on, it's just one night. Besides, I think you look good," said Korra as she smiled at Naruto, while looking him up and down, seeing that he did look rather handsome in the gala clothes. "Thanks, you look really pretty," Naruto muttered, with Korra's smile widening at his compliment. Though her attention turned to the other guests when they started clapping at her entrance. "I can't believe this is all for me," said Korra, not believing this was all for her. "Don't be fooled, Korra. This isn't just some party to celebrate," Naruto said, with Tenzin nodding in agreement. "Naruto's right. I'm not sure what Tarlok's plotting, but keep your guard up. It's not like him to throw a party just for the fun of it," said Tenzin, knowing this was all another one of Tarlok's schemes. He just wasn't sure how it all worked. "I'm so glad you could make it, Avatar Korra. And guest," Tarlok said, smiling as he walked up to them, before looking at Naruto and wondered who he was. "This is my friend, Naruto. I invited him to come along with us." "I hope that's not a problem," said Korra. "Certainly not. Any friend of the Avatars is more than welcome. But if you excuse us, the city awaits its hero," Tarlok said, wanting to get Korra away from Tenzin. Korra walking off with Tarlok, though grabbed Naruto's hand to pull him along, with them soon walking up to an older-looking gentleman. "Korra, it's my pleasure to introduce Republic City's most famous industrialist, Hiroshi Sato," Tarlok introduced the man. "Nice to meet you," replied Korra, as Hiroshi bowed. "We're all expecting great things from you," Hiroshi said, making Korra look away, while Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly at the man. "Right, greatness," muttered Korra. "Hey, Korra, Naruto," said Mako, while walking up to them with Asami and Bolin. "This is my daughter, Asami," Hiroshi said, as Asami smiled at Korra. "It's lovely to meet you. Mako's told me so much about you," said Asami. "Really? Because he hasn't mentioned you at all. How did you two meet?" Korra asked, confused as to when Mako could have met Asami, only to be surprised when Bolin reappeared beside her. "Asami crashed into him on her moped," answered Bolin. "What? Are you okay?" asked Korra, worried about her teammate. "I'm fine. More than fine. Mr. Sato agreed to sponsor our team. We're back in the tournament," Mako said, not believing how they could now participate in the tournament. Isn't that great?" said Bolin, just as excited. "Yeah, terrific," Korra said, not sharing their excitement, since that's now another thing on her increasingly filled-up plate. Though she smiled at Naruto when he gave her hand a gentle squeeze, glad he was here, only for her smile to vanish when she saw the police chief and Tarlok wave her over. "Chief Beifong, I believe you and Avatar Korra have already met," Tarlok said, with Lin glaring at Korra and Naruto. "Just because the city's throwing you this big to-do, don't think you're something special. You've done absolutely nothing to deserve this," Lin said harshly, as Korra gladly glared back at her. "And just because her name's on it, doesn't mean Korra planned it. You want to be angry at someone, be angry at the ponytail man," said Naruto, while pointing his thumb at Tarlok, whose eye twitched at the nickname. Lin glared at him for a moment, before walking away, while Naruto looked at Korra and saw the saddened expression on her face. "Don't let what she said get to you. Remember your choices, your decisions, and damn what anyone else says," Naruto whispered in her ear, with Korra nodding in thanks. "I'm really glad you came," replied Korra, feeling grateful that she asked him to come with her, with Naruto nodding in response. After a while, Korra had been pulled away by Tarlok, leaving Naruto behind, much to the blonde's annoyance, with him wanting nothing more than to punch the councilman in the face, though he groaned when he heard a familiar dark chuckle in his mind. "And here I was hoping I was done with you," Naruto thought, as Carnage laughed loudly in his mind. "Oh, that is absolutely precious. You really think some fancy piece of paper will keep me down? I might not be able to take control, but I will always be here, Naruto, and nothing you or anyone does will ever change that," Carnage taunted. "Maybe, but it keeps you locked away, like the rabid animal you are," Naruto mentally retorted. "Careful what you say, Naruto. That seal won't last forever, and when it fails, I'm gonna have so much fun with these humans. I'll even get to complete our collection of elements, maybe by using one of those little brats, or even the one still in the woman's stomach. Then I'll move on to the Avatar, and show her what bloodbending can really do," growled Carnage, with Naruto clenching his fists in anger, but didn't react, knowing that's what he wanted. "What do you want, Carnage?" Naruto thought, knowing he wouldn't contact just to taunt him. "I just thought I'd let you know that Tarlok is another of mine. He's a child of blood, from a more powerful lineage at that. Just thought I'd warn you, since he seems obsessed with your little girlfriend," said Carnage, before cutting the connection, as Naruto tensed while his eyes widened at this, not even registering how Carnage called Korra his girlfriend. Only that Tarlok was a bloodbender and currently with Korra. Looking around, Naruto soon spotted Korra and Tarlok coming down some stairs, right into a crowd of reporters. "Oh, you son of a bitch," Naruto thought, now seeing what Tarlok's game is, and swore to rip his throat out. "Avatar Korra, you witnessed the danger that this Carnage poses to the city, along with the remnants of the equalists that have escaped custody. How serious a threat do they pose to the innocent citizens of Republic City?" "I think they present a real problem," Korra replied, though sounding unsure. "Then why have you refused to join Tarlok's task force? As the Avatar, shouldn't you be going after Carnage and the equalists?" "Well, Why are you backing away from this fight?" "What? No. I've never backed away from anything in my life," retorted Korra, now getting frustrated with the questions. "You promised to serve this city. Aren't you going back on that promise now? Do you think pro-bending is more important than fighting a serial killer spirit? How do you think Avatar Aang would have handled this?" Korra was becoming more confused, annoyed, and intimidated by the constant bombarding questions. Her eyes darted around, before they soon found Naruto in the crowd. Seeing him look at her in worry and concern helped ease her nerves and remember his words. "My choices, my decisions, and damn what anyone else says," Korra thought. "Are you afraid of Carnage?" one reporter asked, a question that normally would have made Korra snap and give in to join Tarlok's task force. But she refused to bend to the whims of Tarlok and these hounding reporters. "I believe that Carnage and the remaining equalists do pose a danger to Republic City, but I do not believe that forming a task force to hunt them down is the answer," By hunting down and arresting equalists and non-benders, we'd only further be dividing the city more than it already is and proving the equalists right. Now is the time for benders and non-benders to stand together, rather than apart. As for Carnage, I can't make any promises, but to hopefully find him and stop him before anyone else can get hurt. That's all," Korra said, before pushing past the reporters, ignoring any further questions, while Tarlok scowled at seeing his attempt to trick Korra into joining his task force has failed. Making her way to Naruto, Korra felt him wrap an arm around her, before guiding her out of City Hall, followed by Tenzin and his family, with the airbending master looking at his student in pride. "You handle yourself well in there, Korra. I almost expected you to break and give in to Tarlok's demands. But I'm proud you held yourself together," Tenzin said, while smiling at Korra, which she tentatively returned. "I just remembered some advice I got from a friend," said Korra, while glancing at Naruto, only to see the frown on his face. "Naruto, is something wrong?" Korra asked, with Naruto looking at them, before glancing at the children, with Tenzin getting the silent message. "Pema, why don't you and the children go wait for us? We'll be along shortly," Tenzin said, with Pema nodding, figuring whatever they needed to talk about wasn't safe for children to hear. "Tarlok's a bloodbender," revealed Naruto, once Pema and the children were out of earshot, as Korra and Tenzin looked at him with wide eyes, shocked at what he just said. "Tarlok a bloodbender? Are you sure?" Tenzin asked urgently, since this was a very serious problem, if Tarlok was a bloodbender, and none of them realized it. "Yes, Carnage spoke to me. He can sense children of blood and Tarlok's one of them. He also said that he comes from a powerful lineage as well," replied Naruto, further shocking the Avatar and Airbender, all of them knowing just how much more complicated things have become with this knowledge. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now, and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.